So Dr. John Gottman is a pretty amazing guy. Over the last 40 years, he's done research on thousands of couples who were thriving and ailing and really figured out exactly what it is that couples do that make them happy and what they do that makes them ultimately miserable. And one of the things that Gottman did is he studied how couples fight, because all couples fight, and if any couple tells you that they don't, then they're just big fat liars and you should tell them to go outside and leave you alone. So what he did is he found 4 things that he dubbed the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that really predict whether a couple is going to survive or not. So what I thought I'd do is I'd go over those things today, give you a rough idea of exactly what they are, and then hopefully the next time you're in an argument with like a partner, a family member, or a friend, you can identify them and figure out how to get rid of them and have more productive conversations with the people you love and care about. So the first thing that Gottman discovered is criticism. And criticism is really used to determine who is right and who is wrong in an argument. But unfortunately, most conversations and arguments we have in our relationships are perpetual, and they keep going, and those perpetual conversations are emotionally charged. And in those conversations, we surely think that someone is right and someone is wrong, but really it's just a perspective, and it has nothing to do with who's right and who's wrong. So criticism prevents the conversation by being resolved. And criticism is about generalizations. So you'll point at your partner and you'll say, you always do this, or you never do this, and you're making this global assessment about the person's character or how good of a partner they are, when really it's not necessarily true. So what I always recommend, and what Gottman recommends, is try turning your criticism into a complaint. And instead of saying, you're never there for me, try saying something like, I miss you and I wish we spent more time together. Because that indicates immediately that it's a solvable problem and that someone can do something about that rather than just attacking them as a person. So the second thing Gottman discovered is the most toxic of them all, and it's the one that's the biggest predictor of divorce, and it's contempt. Contempt is really just the behavior of making yourself seem superior to your partner. And what's so toxic about contempt is generally people believe they're superior to their partners, which isn't a very good basis for a healthy relationship. You really need a well-established foundation of respect. So with contempt, it can be something as obvious as belittling your partner with words, or it can be something as subtle as a sneer. The global facial expression for contempt is actually raising the left lip in a sneer, so something like that. Obviously, I'm not very good at it. I try not to use contempt all that often, but another thing that can be contemptuous, which I think a lot of people are surprised by, is using sarcasm. And sarcasm can be extremely toxic in a fight because you're not being genuine. You're saying, yeah, I really respect that answer, which, whatever the answer was, it's clear you didn't respect that, but you're saying you did. And how can you have a productive argument when you're not even coming to the table as a genuine person with the person that you're supposed to be able to confide in the most in your life? So yeah, contempt is really bad. Try not to use it. The third one is defensiveness. And defensiveness is really just shifting the blame. So whether it's pointing the finger back at someone and saying, well, you always do this, or you never do that, kind of like the criticism thing. Defensiveness is more playing the victim to ward off a perceived attack. So defensiveness is not that the person is afraid to be wrong. It's just they don't even want to be attacked. They don't want to deal with it. So someone who's being defensive will make excuses about why something is a certain way that usually points to an external circumstance, basically saying, look, I have no responsibility for solving this issue. Move on. And it's really anything that shifts blame and removes the responsibility from it being a we problem between the couple to a you problem. So if your partner comes to you and says, look, I want to work on this issue, and you say, well, tough, I'm sorry, that's your problem, I'm not involved in that, then that's something you really need to look at, because in a relationship, it's about both of you solving the problem, no matter what it is. That's the whole point, is you've agreed to work things out together as a couple. And the last thing that Gottman discovered, which is notoriously a male trait, but we all do it sometimes, is stonewalling. And stonewalling is it looks exactly the opposite of what it is. When someone's stonewalling, they're usually incredibly pissed off. They're usually so flooded, their heartbeat is racing, their blood is pumping, and they're feeling so frustrated that they don't know what to do, and they don't know how to win the argument, so they just shut down. So someone who's stonewalling will cross their arms, they'll look to the side, they'll say monosyllabic, holy moly, that's hard to say, answers like yes, no, lots of shoulder shrugging. And basically they just want the argument to be over because they feel like they can't win. So after reviewing those 4 things, I hope maybe you were able to figure out sometimes that you use those 4 things, and if you weren't, then awesome, you're doing great. But we all do it, and that's the important thing. And if you do use the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in an argument, it doesn't mean that your relationship is destined for failure, because at least you're aware of it now. So I hope that it helped, and if you have any questions, please feel free to comment or send me an email. I'm always here. Send a carrier pigeon if that suits you too. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. Have a great day.